Welcome to the Royal Family Podcast. I'm Tyler. This is Austin.
Good day.
Thank you for that. We're just gonna jump right into it. This section is gonna be called ContradiQtions, and as you can see on the screen, it has a clever spelling.
You misspelled it. Can you tell us why?
Yeah, it's because this section is to talk about contradictions that Q has made while managing this team that we so love and hold dear to ourselves. So let's get into it. The first contradiction, I think around 2 weeks ago, the Royals played Boston at Fenway. We were in a late inning. I think it was either the 7th or 8th inning. And we were down a whole bunch of runs. And we were starting to make a comeback. I believe we were only down 2. I think it was like 6-8. And Bobby Witt Jr. singles to right field. Nick Lofton, who was on second, came around third, went home, and was thrown out by a mile, essentially. Now, looking at the replay, you can tell Vance Wilson, our third base coach, did not make a sign, did not put up a stop sign or send him until like he was essentially 40 or 50% down the baseline.
He was essentially past him or passing him.
Almost. He was pretty far down the baseline, and then you could kind of see one of Vance Wilson's arms go up, which I guess was a stop sign, I guess. Now, one of the worst stop signs ever, very indecisive from Vance. But regardless of all of that, the reason this is a contradiction is because after this game, Q was quoted as saying about Nick Lofton's base running, you gotta understand the game situation at that point. He's trying to be aggressive, probably got a little carried away knowing there were 2 outs. Normally you take chances with 2 outs, but when you're down by 3, apparently they were down by 3. And yeah, I guess they would have been down by 2 if he got there. When you're down by 3 and you're getting the go-ahead run to the plate right there, you gotta stay at third. So that's what he said, which is interesting. He basically threw his young player under the bus, which I wouldn't have too much of a problem with if I agreed that he made a mistake. But the other interesting thing is a week later, we are in a position where we were up 3-2 in the 8th inning, 1 out, no one on. John Rave decided to dive for a ball that he had a small chance of catching, and when he dove for that ball, the ball went by him, and they were able to get a triple out of that, and they would then score on the next play, eventually taking the lead and winning the game. Now, when Q was interviewed about this after the game, he had this to say. His instincts were to go and get it and give the best effort he can. If he could do it over again, we would probably have played it as a single, but he was a couple inches away from catching that ball. That's effort, that's intensity, and that's trying to do the best he can, and it's a physical error. This is crazy to me, because it's essentially the opposite of what you said about Lofton in what is also effort, intensity, and trying to do the best he can. But with Lofton, he essentially made it seem like it was a mental error. In his own quote, where he says we probably would have played it as a single if we could do it again, that means it's definitely a mental error, in my opinion. So it's just crazy that Q has a double standard here for one player versus the other, especially when, in my opinion, the one he was more lenient on was the much worse one. And then our other contradiction this week, this quote comes from around the same time period. Q, I believe, was getting interviewed on a radio show, and he said this quote. I was not able to hear the context because this was quoted on a screenshot or like on a graphic, not with the audio. So keep that in mind. But he said there's no point looking forward to the end of the week when you have your opportunity in front of you. I would 100% agree with that quote. He's spitting facts right there. Unfortunately, so often this year, Q will be in a situation in a close game. We're probably like tied or something going into the 5th, 6th. And then we lose the lead. We are now trailing by like 1 or 2. And Q decides, oh, we're losing by 1 or 2 runs. We're probably going to lose this game. I'm going to put in my worst bullpen guys so I can keep my good bullpen guys for the next games that we might have a better chance to win. Does this make sense if you're like in first place or you're comfortably in a wild card spot? Maybe. I think there's a little debate either way on that. But we're not. We're 4 games back. We have been 4 games back for a long time. And when you're in that position and every game matters at the end of the season like we are right now, you need to focus on winning the game right now. Not essentially almost give up by putting in your worst guys and saying we'll live to fight another day, which is what this quote says, but it's not what he does with his bullpen decisions. So it's just a little bonkers crazy for me to hear, and it's probably not that big of a deal because it's just one quote he said out of context, but it sure did trigger me. It did that.
He definitely is not taking advantage of opportunities that are in front of him a lot of the time in these situations.
Yeah, well, those are just some contradictions that I found from our good guy Matt. But let's get into a little more fun. So this week we are going to do Hud Quotes of the Week. Hud being Rex Hudler, the Royals color commentator for the last like 15-ish years, maybe a little less. The reason I hold this baseball when I do the podcast. We are going to listen to some of his best quotes of the last couple months, and then if we continue to do this weekly, we'll do quotes of the week. So this one more just made me laugh. Like, it wasn't a big joke on the broadcast, and I don't know if other people think it's funny, but essentially Jack hits, I think, an RBI double, something to that effect, and Hud is praising him, Jack Caglione, and he says this.
So nice. Picking up a couple steaks right there. Attaway, Jack. That's what your job's going to be. The rest of this year and the next 20. Might be a lot, but we hope you play that long.
I just thought it. Just the fact that he just assumes Jack is going to have a 20-year long career, or I guess 21 years if it's the next 20.
I feel like he caught himself a little bit there. He was just like,
yeah, he paused.
Maybe that's a little bit too long.
Yeah, paused for a second and was like, well, I love this, man.
Yeah,
okay.
I love the optimism.
This is hilarious. This is, we were playing the Marlins right after the All-Star break. I think it was the 3rd game because we lost that series, but we won the 3rd game. We were starting to pull ahead with a larger lead, and we just scored some runs, and we were about to go to Chicago next to play the Cubs, and Hud had this to say.
This looks familiar, doesn't it? Playing Royals baseball, that's what we're talking about. Get hot before they head into the Windy City. Take care of the little cubbies.
Really heads up.
First of all, I love the confidence, and we did end up winning that series, but I love the confidence against one of the best teams in the league, and then just to call them the little cubbies is such a good little roast, honestly.
We just need to put Hud like in the clubhouse just to be like just a daily hype man. Like, I'm sure he already is to an extent, but like that would just be the ultimate role for him.
Yeah, hire him as the bench coach to get the culture up,
Or third base
He's always
coach.
talking.
Probably would have held Lofton.
Well,
with a good,
I doubt
and
it.
obvious
I don't
stop
know.
sign.
I don't know if I trust Hud out there, but I trust him for culture.
Yeah.
And he always says these things he would say to players and the opposite team when he was in the dugout. It's always hilarious. But anyways, let's go into our last one. This is probably my favorite. This is also in the Marlins series, I believe. And Freddie Fermin came up to the plate, and they said a little story about him. R.I.P. Freddie. He is doing amazing in San Diego, so that's awesome to see. But obviously, he was still on our team here, and Hud had a little something to say to him.
If you're going to have a backup behind Salvador Perez, who better than this guy? Another former Venezuelan. Or not former. Another Venezuelan. How about if I just say another Venezuelan buddy of his? My bad. I wish I was an English major.
Probably news to Freddie that he was former, once a Venezuelan, but
I was my head's pounding. I got a bad headache.
Yeah,
Like how we paused.
denouncing Freddie's Venezuelan citizenship on accident.
Current thoughts, catch up with the KC Current, what's been going on with them. Since we last talked about them, Ali Sentinor has made her debut. She made her first debut back in Utah against her old team. She came on for, I think, about half an hour in that game, subbed in for Davinia in that 1-0 victory over Utah Royals. In that game, she did a solid job, I felt. She had no goals or assists, but there was a couple times she was able to get on the ball and kind of provide some moments of attacking danger. There wasn't really too much in that game. The former team did a pretty nice job of locking down defensively and limiting outlet passes and things like that. Before I hop into this past week's game against Orlando, I did want to give a big shout out to Temwa Shawinga. Why, you may ask? The former NWSL MVP of this past season, the Golden Boot winner of this past season. Not only was she nominated for the Ballon d'Or, it's been about a week and a half ago at this point, almost 2 weeks, which the Ballon d'Or, for those of you who don't know, is an award given in men's and women's soccer or football for the world's best player. Even being nominated for that list means that you are among the top of the top in the entire world of soccer. So big congratulations to her on that. Secondly, Temwa was also voted as the KC Sports Commission Player of the Year. That includes all Kansas City sports across all levels. So in a town that has the likes of Patrick Mahomes and Bobby Witt Jr., it's a huge accolade, huge award. I love the recognition for her and for women's soccer. Absolutely fantastic. So a big shout out and congratulations to Temwa Chawinga.
Yes.
Yeah. And then next, I'd like to get into the KC Current's game against Orlando. I'm sure most of you know already it was a 0-0 draw, and we'll get more into analysis of the game in a minute, but go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, I was just going to preface that by going through some of the conditions to start the game. So it was supposed to be a 3 o'clock game, and I believe, right?
Yes, in the middle of August in Kansas City. But go ahead.
Yes. It was supposed to be a 3 o'clock game. It was always in the forecast to be around 94, 95 at that time with the 97 heat index. Yet they can't play if it's not 92 or below. So they kept delaying this game over and over again until they just eventually said they're going to play at, what was it, 6:15 or 6:45?
6:28 is when they finally did kickoff.
Yeah, so all these fans, they were allowed to leave, either initially or eventually, I'm not really sure, but they were eventually allowed to leave and come back, but they had to go there when they could have easily been avoided. They could have easily just pushed the game to the night, just knowing the weather, because as far as temperature forecasts, they don't change all that much. And they also, I mean, they just could have saved so many people not having to wait in the heat forever by delaying it over and over again. They just made people like get dehydrated and, you know, get close to possible worse things by sitting there, by continuing to tell them that the game was about to start. But instead they just kept stringing them along until they finally announced that it was going to be later. And that peeves me off a little bit, but you can get into the actual analysis of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to touch on the whole weather delay thing too. Gates opened at 1 p.m. for the 3 o'clock game, and much to your credit, you called it from the beginning. You were like, this game is not going to get played till like 7 o'clock. And in the end, like 6:30 is when it finally got started. But enough of that. Let's hop into the actual game. Like I mentioned before, it was a 0-0 draw against Orlando. So you were more optimistic on the result of this game than I was, but let me just kind of explain. My frustration isn't necessarily with the Current in their performance. I think they were stout defensively. They did a pretty good job of locking down Orlando. Orlando had some good chances. There were a few things, of course, with the delay that kind of threw things off as a viewer, but I know just watching that game, both sets of players were kind of struggling with fatigue and the overall heat, which is 110% understandable. That's going to affect your play. That's going to affect the intensity of the game and things like that. There was also the injury to Barbara Banda really early on in the game. She was unable to return. So I think in a game that was really built up as being like the game of the year, I think the conditions combined with the Banda injury kind of put a bit of a downer on the match. We will take the draw in the 1 point. We have had our struggles with Orlando Pride in the past, over the past couple of seasons in particular. But I think, if anything, we maintained our defensive intensity and we were really able to kind of clamp them down. I would have liked us to finish some really great opportunities later on in the game. Bia almost had the game-winning goal late on in the game. It would have definitely secured the full 3 points, but unfortunately she put it over the bar. There were also a couple times where Ali Sentnor had the ball in the attacking midfield. She was driving at the defenders. She had options. And a couple times, it was like one right after the other. She had Bia in the middle, Chewing on the left, Nichelle Prince on the right. And both times she played it into Bia in the middle, but the timing and the accuracy of the pass was off. That's kind of the rust that you're going to expect trying to integrate a new player into a team. So I'm going to give her grace with that. I think with more time with our players, she's going to kind of figure out kind of where to go in those situations, when to hold on to the ball, when to pass it out wide, or when to pass it in centrally towards Bia. But overall, I think, again, solid defensive job by the Current, and onwards and upwards. We still have more matches left to play, and we're just going to keep pushing for that top spot in the league, and that'll be an amazing opportunity to win a trophy and put ourselves in prime position to attack things come playoff time.
Speaking of women's sports, let's get into a woman in a sport, in a male-dominated sport, and that is the MLB, who for 122 years has never had a female umpire until now. Jen Powell becomes the first woman umpire in Major League history, and she made her debut the other day. At first base, she did a great job. And then the next day, she called her first game behind the plate. I just wanted to go over a few stats because I feel like there may be a bunch of misconceptions about how she did behind the plate. Number one, her accuracy, the balls she called correctly and the strikes she called correctly. That's going to be a 92.72% accuracy. It's not anything good. It's not really good. It's not great. It's not above average. But let's talk about how it compared to the rest of the league. First, let's do how it compared to the rest of the umps who called games on that day. On the day of her debut, there were 3 other umpires that had worse accuracies. There are 4 other umps that have called games this year that average worse than 92.72%. One of them has only called 3 games. The other 3 are full-time umps. One other thing I want to look at, and I did so much research to find this out because there's a website called Ump Scorecards, and you can look at people's accuracy by year. You can look at their game history, but what you can't do is like really sort or do splits or anything like that, or filter when you search. So essentially I had to go through every single umpire who has umped this year, and I had to look at all the umps that debuted between 2015 and now, because that's when they started keeping the data. And for all of the umps that debuted between 2015 and now, I looked at every single one of their debuts. The accuracy of the games that they debuted with calling behind the plate. And amongst 29 umpires, Jen Pawol ranks 17th. So right around the halfway, a little above, well, a little behind halfway, but she ranks right in the middle of all those umpires' debut games. I think it makes sense that a debut game is going to likely, and not always, but likely be a worse accuracy because it's going to be the most pressure you ever have, unless we're talking like a World Series, first World Series, or whatever it may be. But on top of that, she has immense pressure, first, being a woman in this arena in general, and second, being the first woman to ever ump in the history of baseball. Just an immense amount of pressure. So, all that to say, I think 92.72 is nothing to scoff at. Great for her first time calling the game. And yeah, I thought it was pretty solid.
People like to complain and unfairly criticize her performance, but really I think she did a good job, and I'm sure she'll only get better with experience at this level.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned people complaining. An account by the name, and there's a million accounts like this, but an account by the name of Dugout Forever decided to show up in my feed, my algorithm, one day on Instagram. They have about 325,000 followers, which is why this is significant at all. But they decided the only thing they posted about Jen Pawol was that her correct call rate was 92.72%, and her umpire average, or the umpire average this year, is 94.23%. Now this is pretty irrelevant, or just kind of a stupid thing to focus on, considering it's her first game, considering all the stats that I just mentioned. It's a pretty dumb thing to focus on. It's rage bait, and it's all this account does. In their bio, they say, the hottest baseball highlights straight to your feed. But really, they hardly ever post highlights. They only post completely negative things that they know people will pile on. For instance, Pete Crow Armstrong has hit 84 since the All-Star break. Stuff like that. And I don't think it's necessarily never something that should be reported on, but it's all they do is just prey on people's downfall. So I think that's pretty pathetic. And speaking of rage bait, let's talk about something else I saw this week, which is media outlet The Shredder put out their top 10 third basemen right now. Austin, do you notice anything about this list?
There is a Royal who is not on this list of top 10 third basemen right now, according to Shredder.
Oh, George Brett?
Well,
no, he hasn't
maybe
played
not
for
in
a
the
while.
history of the league, but like right now, like power rankings essentially is what they're trying to do.
Mike Moustakas. No.
No.
No. Okay, I think who you're talking about is Maikel Garcia.
That's
Now,
the one.
Now, I live in a bubble sometimes. I watch mainly Royals games. I keep up with the rest of the MLB, but if I'm watching a baseball game, it's probably going to be the Royals unless I have like a free trial or maybe my third free trial of MLB TV. So I could be wrong when I see this list and go, how is Maikel not on here? That's terrible. So I did some searching, and I found some stats of Maikel compared to the 10 players on this list. So it'll be 11 players. It'll be how he ranks among the other 10 third basemen on this list. So Maikel has a 302 batting average, first among this list, but no one cares about batting average anymore. I understand that. I respect that. Okay, so let's get into some other statistics. He has a 361 weighted on-base average, fifth amongst this list. 13% strikeout rate, third. Switching to defense for a second, he has a 5 fielding run average, which is third. Remember, he's also a great defender. And speaking of defending, he has 8 outs above average, second on this list. He has 5 triples, that leads the list. 51 RBIs, that's 7th. He has 207 total bases, that's 4th. 22 stolen bases, that's 2nd. 365 on base percentage, that's 2nd. 469 slugging percentage, that's 5th. 834 OPS, that's 4th. And maybe most importantly, depending on how you feel about the stat, I know some people love it, some people hate it. Most people find it pretty standard. He has a 4.2 WAR, which is second amongst this list. He is, according to stats, the second most valuable to his team amongst this list. Notice how I didn't say any ranks that were double digits on the list. That's because there aren't any. And I think it's just pretty insane that he wasn't a top 10 third baseman. Whether it's rage bait or not, just got to call that out. And just a little caveat as well. Junior Caminero was also not on this list. That is just as insane, to be clear.
I do think if you look at some of the names on these lists, look at who some of these guys play for. You've got a Red Sox, you've got a Dodger, you've got an Astro, you've got a Padre, you've got a Brave, you've got a Philly. Do the math.
You're not wrong. No. And Junior Caminero on the Rays, also not very popular or rich franchise.
I think part of it is rage baiting, but also part of it is people don't like to pay attention to small market teams. But this man was an all-star.
He's done way better since being an all-star as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now we have a new game that I'm bringing to the podcast. And this game is called Name That Royal. In the future, we will do Name That Royal, where I will quiz Austin because I'm more of the baseball guy on this podcast. And then in future weeks, we're also going to do Name That Current Player, where Austin quizzes me on KC current players. Here's how Name That Royal works. I am going to, by the end of this game, list 6 facts or stats about a Royals player. But I'm going to start with just one. And the first one is going to be the hardest. The 6th one is going to be the easiest. So I'll start with one, and Austin can choose whether he wants to guess who it is. He feels like he has a good idea of who it is. Or he can just skip to the next clue. Austin has 2 guesses total, so if he uses a guess, he has to be wary of that. And if he uses both of his guesses before the game is over, then he loses. And, he has bragging rights on the line for how quickly he can guess, but he also needs to be smart and not waste his guesses. A few rules for who this Royal can be: they have to have been at the major league level as a Royal this season, but they do not currently have to be on the team, and they do not currently have to be at the major league level. So it could be someone who got optioned down, DFA'd, traded, etc., etc. Austin, do you have any questions?
Nope. I'm ready to go.
Okay. Don't know where that came from. Hint number 1. It has been said that he is the most organized player on the team, on the Royals.
The most organized person on the team. So
Completely unrelated to baseball. Like, they keep their locker tidy and whatnot.
gotcha. So someone who pays a lot of attention to detail, very orderly, does things in a certain type of way. Thinking about that,
related.
I know, but I do feel like personality sometimes, not always, can lead into play, or personality in positions. So an orderly type of person, I'm thinking maybe a pitcher, or a guy which I feel like there's a lot of baseball players like this who do a lot of things the exact same way all the time. Obviously, I can't go off of that, but I'm thinking maybe a pitcher or someone who, I don't know, just has certain routines built in. But okay, what's the next hint?
Interesting thoughts. The next hint is something I really hope you don't just randomly know about this person, and that is that they played college ball at the University of California.
A Cal guy. Ooh, I want. Ooh. Okay, who I'm thinking of right now, it's not a pitcher. Just because Cal. Okay. But I don't want to give a guess on it yet. So I will ask for a third hint.
Okay. Opponents of the opposite dominant hand of this pitcher, so he is a pitcher, hit 170 against him, and opponents of the same dominant hand hit 281. So he is almost like an anti-specialist.
Okay.
You could say, based on his stats. You could say that based on his stats.
So he's good against the opposite handness, you said?
Yeah.
But worse against those who have the same handness as him.
That is what the stats say, correct.
Okay. Okay. So my initial thought...
I want to make sure that I continue to say that is what the stats say.
Gotcha.
They are not necessarily thought of this way. The main hint here is that they are a pitcher.
Yes. Okay. Okay. In that case,
Only three more after this.
Yeah. And he played at Cal. Okay. So I'm thinking an American guy, of course, pitcher, and he is better against his handness. Sorry.
Opposite.
He's worse against those who are the same handness. I'm gonna assume he's a righty.
I think it's technically handedness, but
Yeah, whatever. Handedness. Okay. I'm gonna need a fourth hint.
Okay. He was drafted by the Brewers, but made his major league debut with the A's.
Well, dang it. See, I was going to guess him before this, but
No way.
I didn't want to burn
this?
a guess. This is Lucas Ursig.
Damn it. Okay. Yes. Ding, ding, ding. You got it. And the other two hints were going to be Although born in the United States, this person is of Croatian descent. I was hoping you didn't know the Brewers and A's thing, because then you might have guessed Chris Bubich on this one, because he's the Croatian sensation. And then the last one is, this pitcher has the best ERA in the bullpen in the 8th inning or later. And
That's why he's my closer.
well, yeah, that might not seem like the most obvious hint, but I just figured you would think you would know that.
Gotcha.
Or like assume that at least. All right, let's get into our next player. So the first hint here, he was a special guest on a podcast alongside another special guest with the last name Epstein.
Okay. I need to think about
You there?
who.
Oh.
You said what?
I was just checking if you were there.
Oh, no, you're good. I was just thinking, but I'm like, let me talk out loud first.
Okay,
So I'm trying to think somebody who is a more well-known player as far as the roles are considered nationally.
Just to be clear,
Thinking,
Just to be
Yes.
clear, someone with that last name, I'm not saying they are
Oh, yeah, I
in
know,
any way
I know.
related. Okay.
I know. I know. I know it's not the same person.
I also said podcast, just to be clear.
Yeah. I
Just
got
keep in mind, we have a podcast.
you. Oh, yes. I know. Okay. I got you now. Okay. I guess that really doesn't tell me very much, just because it could be a big podcast, it could be a small podcast.
Second hint, they played college ball at UNLV.
Nevada, Las Vegas. Okay. All right. We know Bobby didn't go to college, so he's off. UNLV. Who played at? Oh. Was it?
Please, no. There's no way.
Hold on. Is it Isbell?
Is that a guess?
That is a guess.
Okay, fuck you. Yes.
Whoa,
That's correct.
look at me.
I really just had to hope you didn't know college things about
I feel
people.
like it was mentioned once during a broadcast about him going there, just randomly.
Okay, well, I chose two people that you specifically like more than others,
Yeah,
thinking that you would overthink it and think that I wouldn't choose people like that. Let me see if you would have got it from these other ones if UNLV wasn't on there.
Sure.
Well, actually, some of these I know you wouldn't have got. Third one is he leads the team in batting average on Sunday and Monday games.
Yeah, there's no way. Wouldn't know.
Fourth one is his sprint speed is in the 57th percentile of MLB players.
At that point, I know it wouldn't be India because he can't steal a base to save his life. So I would probably think
57th
India
isn't
at
that high.
first. But because of his inability to steal, I would be like, no way, it's India. And then I would think Lofton runs pretty good. I don't know. I don't know who I would have guessed. He would have been on the list, though, because he's not really the fastest, but he's not, like, slow. So
Yeah. By the way, Jonathan India is in the 71st
That's
percentile.
crazy.
I know. Okay. Fifth, he has the second highest home batting average on the team, slashing .289.
I think at this point he would be on my differential, but I don't know that I would guess him at this point or not. It's kind of a toss-up at this point.
Number 6 leads the league in bunt singles. I think you
Yeah, I
would have
probably would
got
have gotten that, yeah.
All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that game, Austin, and I hope you enjoyed that
I really
game,
liked it.
people listening. Yeah, we'll try to do that Most weeks, or some variation of that. Next, we are going to talk about some news that came out recently, which is a new baseball league. I know we talked about the AUSL recently, the American Unlimited Softball League that the MLB invested in. But this week we're talking about the Women's Pro Baseball League, the WBPL. It is, as it sounds, it's going to be a professional baseball league for women as opposed to softball. And they are holding tryouts at Nationals Park on the 22nd through the 26th of August. This has nothing to do with the MLB, even though they're trying out in an MLB park. This is completely independent. Something that I think is the most exciting about all of this is that Monet Davis is trying out. Last I heard from her was like 10 years ago when she was pitching for the Little League World Series and having a few dominant games against the boys she was playing against. So that's really exciting to me. I don't know if that excites you at all.
100%. You brought this on my radar. I hadn't even heard about this until you brought it up, and my ears definitely perked up when I heard Monet Davis's name get brought up.
I just imagined you as a bunny rabbit for some reason when you said your ears perked up. Listen, I can't control where my imagination goes. I'm just letting you know because I'm a good friend.
That is an odd place for it to go, but thanks for letting me know.
No problem. So because of this, I wanted to, for people who don't know, get into a little of what Monet Davis has done since she got done playing Little League. She played high school baseball for a little bit. She eventually quit. I could not find any further explanation on why she quit, so I won't speculate. But she did quit high school baseball. She then played college softball for 2 years, not as a pitcher, as a second baseman, and shortstop was like average, I would say. That's really about all I know. She's definitely done some broadcasting, some media stuff. I think it was said like 2 years ago. They thought she was gonna get into broadcasting as a career, like full time. But she has done some part-time stuff, and now she's obviously going to try out for this league. I think it'll be really interesting to see if she kept training. Did she keep her pitching sharp? What is her pitching like now? Is it good enough to stand out in this league? I'm really interested to know. She's 24 now. Last time she was seen pitching, I believe she was 14. But yeah, I think there's definitely a couple or quite a few other notable names that I read about that are trying out for this league. I hadn't heard of them because I'm just not on game, I guess, for this. But there are quite a few notable names, and I think we're going to find out that there is a ton of really good women's baseball players that you just don't hear get media coverage all that much. And I think this league would be incredibly fun to watch. I was excited about the AUSL, and I'll especially be excited about the AUSL when they have like cities attached to the teams. But this interests me a lot more, honestly. Just being honest.
I definitely agree with you. I feel like this new venture is going to be really interesting in seeing kind of what these women can do on the field. Not only do we have the opportunity with the AUSL, like you mentioned, hopefully that takes off and continues to grow. And then with the baseball league, I think not having any type of professional baseball or softball is kind of a missed market. We saw this past year with the softball World Series and the popularity that had. But sometimes it's kind of a shame where you have these amazing college players who once they're done with their college careers, they don't have that opportunity to go pro. And I think having Monet Davis potentially attached to this league will, at least in the beginning, bring some notoriety to this league. And hopefully those ladies, through their play, can gain more fans and attract more eyes for the growth of the game.
I think if there is ever to be a woman playing in a like good enough to play in a male sport, it probably would be baseball, and probably would be a pitcher in a bullpen situation. So, obviously that won't happen anytime soon, but it'd be great to see if we actually got that someday.